G'day there, ladies and gents of the internet. I am the Braveheart Aussie and welcome to a journey in world building. Once again, I want to say a big welcome to all the new subscribers on the channel. We quickly blew past 1,000 subscribers here, and at the time of this recording we're rapidly approaching 1,500 subscribers, which is incredible. So a big thank you to all of you for the support. In the last video, we established some custom TTRPG inspired role tables for establishing bespoke terrors in the Diaspora universe. And we trialled these role tables to establish a terror for an agrarian planet of Aralok, which I've called the Mist Spectres. I really love how this terror turned out, with the classic horror and suspense thriller vibes, so if you haven't checked it out, go and do so. I mentioned when discussing the terrors that a lot of the details about a local planet or settlement can be inferred once a terror is established. In the case of Aralok, we were able to build out the agrarian aspect of the economy, technological difficulties of the settlement, and the dispersed and isolated natures of the homesteads. One aspect of the planet that we didn't discuss was that of the government, and that's what I'd like to go through and talk about today. Firstly, I previously mentioned that there is no diaspora-wide government. While some regional power blocks do exist, the majority of governance in the galaxy falls to what can be best classified as local authorities. And this makes sense, since so much of the terror and challenges facing colonies and settlements across the diaspora are local in nature, specific to individual planets and moons, and that these require immediate and tailored responses. The diaspora is centuries old, so many of the more developed settlements have more mature governance structures with elements of democracy or at least representation. Given the terrors that exist, however, even larger settlements would likely need to have a very agile and responsive governance model, with less focus on parliaments and congresses and more emphasis on executive committees and councils. The attraction of this model of representative council is that it can scale up from local to regional governments. The Tyson Sector Compact, for example, the largest multiplanetary federation in the diaspora, has a standing council with representatives from each of the planets of the compact. These representatives are in turn appointed from planetary councils, which are in turn appointed by local councils. This model of government is not as much political as it is executive, with a focus on making timely, efficient, and practical decisions on everyday matters, over having political parties with competing ideological positions. However, the colonization of the diaspora embodies the most extreme case of creative destruction and natural selection, with haggard colonies regularly failing and quickly being replaced by new foolhardy settlers who think they know how to do it better. So how are these colonies governed? Well, I can see something of an executive model, with a single appointed executive officer governing based on some form of pre-established constitutional system. This was actually an approach that was explored by Arthur C. Clarke in several of his novels and short stories, where new colonies would adopt a standardized constitution as part of their founding. To attract colonists for a new venture, those back in the endeavor would likely need to be somewhat transparent on how the colony is governed, if for no other reason to assuage potential settlers of fear of being duped. Despite this transparency, such gambits are not unheard of, and faux administrations exist across the diaspora with the intent of defrauding colonists, stripping them of their belongings and valuables upon arrival, and effectively enslaving them. Even when the settled governance is legitimate and done without this defrauding intent, this does not preclude those in positions of power from succumbing to the lure and temptation of corruption and abuse. This could include fraud and manipulation of the population to retain power beyond their fixed term, corruption or other backroom deals, and other types of financial aggrandizement. In extreme cases, administrators and their allies may become fanatical or absolute in their control, like that of a dictator, and inflict hardship and tyranny on the residents. Such devolution may have been by design, or may have occurred somewhat naturally as an understandable reaction to increasingly horrific, challenging, or traumatic events, such as whatever is the local terror. Or such tyranny may have been imposed by an outside faction, like a group of Covenant zealots, or perhaps some unscrupulous coalition merchants. Alternatively, there may have been a holy man or prophet emerge, and existing governance was abandoned in a fit of theocratic fervour. Or there could have been a long-term consolidation of power in a single family, and they now act as effectively royalty. Or maybe everything just broke down, and all we have now is anarchy. This potential for either the maintenance or abandonment of this standard model of small settled governance provides a huge opportunity for the use of roll tables once again. This time, however, I want to include an element of dice challenges. In a dice challenge, you roll the dice to try and reach a certain value or threshold in order to trigger a specific action or event. So for this first roll table of settlement governance, I want to focus on the governance type. Here we're going to be using a D8 or an 8-sided die. If we roll a 1 to 4, then this is just an standard executive model of governance is adopted with an appointed leader and supporting personnel. At this point, the person rolling can just move on to the next table. However, if it's a 5 to an 8, then there is a different type of governance model adopted. This could include an external faction, a local theocracy, a royalty, or anarchy. After this, the second roll table will be similar to the severity roll table for that of terrors. This will be known as an oppression table. Using a D10, the level of oppression from the selected governance model is rolled for, with 1 meaning it's relatively supportive, compassionate, and morally steadfast, while a 10 means the effective enslavement of the residents. Again, I can see a dice challenge being used. If a score of 8 or above is reached on the oppression table, then another D6 is rolled on what is effectively a revolt table. If a score is a 1 to 4 is reached on this revolt table, then there is no revolt. If it's a 5, then a revolt is imminent, while if it's a 6, the people are in open revolt. This not only helps to define the view of the government, its relationship to the people, but also the reaction of residents to changes in the oppression level of that government. Finally, leaning more into the TTRPG focus of this concept and the last, I can see there being something of an event table. This would provide a set of predetermined events that add further flavour to the government. Examples may include there's a leader of the local government that's been assassinated. A group of residents are accusing the leader of corruption. There is some form of official ceremony, religious or spiritual or formal, taking place. A prisoner or a slave has escaped and they are seeking help to get off the planet. A family has disappeared and a search party has been organised. There has been an accident in the settlement and many people have been hurt. These would just be options, however, and a more custom bespoke potential event could also be considered if one of the dice challenges in the previous roll tables were hit. So I've done the same thing as I did last week and used these roll tables to create the foundation for this week's lore narrative. And to add even further detail, I've used the roll tables for the terror as well to create the most comprehensive setting we have so far to date. So hopefully you enjoy the video when it comes out tomorrow. Before I go, just a quick channel schedule update. I'll be travelling, so there'll be no videos out next week. Then once I'm back, we'll have 2 weeks of videos before the Christmas break and another short hiatus between Christmas and New Year's. But come 2024, we will be back at it fully, so more videos and more world building to come. And that is it for today. Thanks again for joining me on our world building project. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and may the journey continue.